we now have, for example, I just was in meetings a couple of Mondays ago with these folks that a real estate company bought a group of courtyard buildings. So these buildings with large numbers of apartments in them. They bought 7 or 8 of these, and they're essentially forcing people out by not maintaining services. This particular building has had no heat since Christmas.
Oh, wow.
They just stopped removing the garbage from the dumpsters in the back, so they're like overflowing. They're just waiting for people to leave, and it's eviction through neglect, and that's being allowed because there's an idea that the market should just be allowed to play out the way the Obama Center is sort of affecting things, because there's a vision of gentrification. We're talking about a neoliberal vision where the right people end up in the right places, and the right people, you can be black, but you just have to have $1 million in the bank. It's a different kind of racism that incorporates class as well.
Currently, if I'm not mistaken, there's construction underway for to put up the Obama Center, and
Yes.
it's the Obama Presidential Museum. And if I'm not mistaken, it is in your ward. Uh, can you speak a little bit on the damage and or harm that this Obama Center and Obama Museum has caused in your ward, and how can you remedy that?
This is something I talk about a lot, and it's one of the things that really has kind of made me distinct from other candidates running, because people are nervous about speaking critically of the first black president of Barack Obama, and the first lady, who of course was a South Sider. Um, but it's a disaster. It's a disaster for our communities, and it's a disaster on level, starting with the fact that they took 19 acres of park from the south side of Chicago. For a lot of us, the only yard we have is parks. And so the biggest park on the south side is now significantly diminished because, I mean, you think about just what is an acre? Acres are such large tracts of land that we don't talk about urban land usually in acres. We talk about them in other quantities. So it's a huge amount of real estate they've taken. The other thing that's happened is because of the way it happened, and because there's not feedback from the community, but there is a lot of sort of how do I describe it? There's a lot of parallel development organizing happening. So, like a community development corporation was formed by Arnie Duncan and Rahm Emanuel and a bunch of local pastors. There's been a lot of kind of local speculation that's not being regulated. So the aggregate effect of the center being built, all the hype around it, and a bunch of other stuff that kind of Obama adjacent people are moves that they're making has been to create a dramatically unstable housing market. And what is being done in that unstable, when a housing market is unstable, when the data kind of makes it impossible to understand what normal is anymore, predators are able to move in and do things that under other circumstances they can't, such as there's a condominium development down the street from me that was built, and a condominium was put on the market for $700,000. A condominium in Woodlawn, it wouldn't be unusual for a condominium to sell for $100,000 in the neighborhood, or 125,000 7 or 8 years ago. This $700,000 condominium was sold overnight. It moved as quick. It was an engineered sale, but the effect of the engineered sale was to create a buzz, and so then you had more people building and putting things on the market at this rate that kind of goosed the statistics. So it looked like hot housing market, and then you start to get the business trades and the real estate trades talking about Woodlawn is heating up. And then what has happened is people are coming in and speculating on the property. So they're buying it not with the purpose of even necessarily housing people, but with the purpose of seeing what the market will do and how they can manipulate the market. So we now have, for example, I just was in meetings a couple of Mondays ago with these folks that a real estate company bought a group of courtyard buildings. So these buildings with large numbers of apartments in them. They bought 7 or 8 of these, and they're essentially forcing people out by not maintaining services. This particular building has had no heat since Christmas.
Oh, wow.
They just stopped removing the garbage from the dumpsters in the back, so they're like overflowing. They're just waiting for people to leave, and it's eviction through neglect, and that's being allowed because there's an idea that the market should just be allowed to play out the way the Obama Center is sort of affecting things. Because there's a vision of gentrification. We're talking about a neoliberal vision where the right people end up in the right places, and the right people, you can be black, but you just have to have $1 million in the bank. It's a different kind of racism that incorporates class as well, and a lot of folks are going to get hurt in the meantime. What an alderman can do is stop. All of the real estate stuff is in the purview of aldermen. Chicago is a unique city in that corruption is knit so deep into the regulatory process that you can't change the sign on your store without coming to me and asking. If you're disabled and you want a sign in front of your house so you can have a space that other people can't park in that says you're disabled, you got to come to me. So the alderman, every opportunity for an alderman to get a buck out of somebody is written into law. That's kind of a horrible, corrupt system, but it also provides opportunity to stop people in their tracks when they're trying to do something. Right now, we have a pretty much hands-off alderman. She's announced she's not running again. So when building inspectors get called to the Fifth Ward, they don't show up because there's no consequence. Because the way the system is set up, you're supposed to then get the phone call from the alderman's office. That's how you know that you need to do your job. And that's how they kind of prioritize which places they take care of. In the white wards, they always get the phone call from the alderman because they know if they don't, they're going to face hell, because they've got people who have resources that they can say, I've got all day. If you're not going to take care of this problem house across the street, I'm going to take the day off because I own the company anyway, and I'm going to get on you until you get this done right. Where, a similar scenario on the South Side could be that you're working a couple jobs, or you've got a bunch of other responsibilities that you're taking care of. So you can't be on top of that. And you can, by contrast, get an alderman who says, they're going to do the least, which is what we're dealing with right now. What the alderman can do is let the Obama Center and real estate speculators know that the party's over and that there will be consequences to speculating in the communities, and it will stop immediately, just like that. Look, though, I promise you that the guy that I went to, the priest that I went to and said, I have good news for you, I have $650,000, was not expecting the but after that. But the thing is, people play ball once they know that you're not playing and you've got something they want. And aldermen have all future real estate in their hands, all future real estate deals, because there's a kind of tradition, aldermanic privilege in city council, that if I don't want something done in my ward, nobody else votes for it in the council. Everyone plays that way. So if you don't want something done in your ward, everyone is going to say that it doesn't get done. That means if I say, you're blacklisted basically from building in my ward, that's the end of the show for you in my ward. Now you could go somewhere else. And honestly, I want you to if you're a speculator anyway. But one way or the other, we're going to do things the right way in the Fifth Ward. And that's how that'll be different.